Well, it's wonderful being here today. It's worth coming all the way from the United States. I'm very happy. Somebody asked me outside just now, how does it feel being here? And I said, it feels like a very proud grandfather who is meeting all his grandchildren after many, many years. And I'm feeling so happy and elated seeing all of you so nice and grown up, and you have your own children, and it's just a wonderful experience. Someday when you become a grandfather or a grandmother and have great-grandchildren, then you will know the feeling of how it is. It's been a very long journey, and you know, finding you and deciding to give you in adoptions, and it was very painful also. I remember Sunanda and I, for many nights, we used to sleepless nights, wondering whether we are doing the right thing or not, whether we are rescuing you and sending you to a foreign country. Whether that was right or not, I don't know. And but seeing all of you here and growing up in a loving family and growing up so well makes it all worthwhile. But it's also very painful to see how many more children are left back in India. Not only as orphans in orphanages, but also children who are living in poverty. They have their parents, but they are living in so much poverty in India and in many other countries also. But I'm speaking more about India because I've been there and I lived there and I know about the situation there. But the amount of poverty and the extent of poverty is just unbelievable. And it came home to me one day when I was coming back home. I was working in those days in the Times of India, a big newspaper, and I was coming back home. And I was standing in the train reading a book, and a little child, I didn't see, I was so engrossed in the book that somebody was pulling my trouser leg. And I looked down, who was that, and I see this little child was not more than 4 or 5 years old. And he had a little tin can with candy sweets made by his mother in that can, and he was trying to persuade me to buy some sweets. And I was shocked, first of all, to see a little child of that age alone on a train. I wouldn't dare put my older children alone in the train at the time, but this little child was all alone, jumping on and off the train. And why was he trying to sell me candy? And so my station was coming, and I asked him to come down with me at the station, and I sat with him and we talked about his life. And what he told me brought tears to my eyes. It was so shocking. He said that his parents live in so much poverty, and they have no food there. So all of them have to work and bring money to be able to eat something in the evening. And he said that his mother told him that if he didn't sell all this candy, and if he didn't bring the money home in the evening, he won't get any food to eat. That meant that the whole day this little child was roaming around the streets with no food to eat, except what he could pick up in the garbage or on the roadside. Otherwise, he was starving. When I met him, it was after 5 o'clock in the evening. And I thought to myself, I said, he's still got half a tin full of the candy. When is he going to be able to sell all this candy and go home and have a proper meal? And my initial feeling was that I should give him some money, buy those candies, and so let him go home so that he can eat. But then I told myself, I'll do it today. What's going to happen tomorrow? Who's going to give him food tomorrow? And how will this help him in the long term? And that's when I felt that we need to find some long-term solution to this problem. And one of the reasons why I've gotten involved in starting this school in memory of Sunanda is to rescue these children and help them so that they can, improve their life. Now, my initial idea was like the general idea that we have all done, and many churches and many people abroad, they sponsor a child and help that child. That was my initial response, that we'll take a child and sponsor the child and give the child education and help, and then the rest of the family can benefit from it. But then I thought to myself, how do you go in a family where there are 2, 3, 4 children and pick one child and say that you are going to get food and education and all that, and all the other 3 children are left on their own? And I said, this is heartless. We can't do that. If we want to help, we've got to help the whole family come up. And so the institution, although we call it the school, it's not regular school, like you go and learn ABC and 1, 2, 3. But it is a school where the children will be given all kinds of training. We have to remember, and we experienced this because we now have about 160 children. We have been dealing with children who have been taken from poverty, and we found that these children, right from their birth, were brought up in such a way that they were told they have to take things from other people. Even if everybody was sitting there and all these children were sitting and they were given food, they would grab from other people's plate to take for themselves because they wanted more. And we had to teach them that that is not how if you want more, you ask us and we'll give you more. But don't take from other people. And have that kind of community feeling and feeling for each other. So we had to kind of rebuild or remold the minds of the children to make them be more like people in society, how we help each other and give each other and so on. So it's a continuous process of rebuilding these children and making them more kind like us. Then I thought, we take the children and we give them this training. What about the parents? How are the parents going to benefit from it? And I had an experience when I was living in India, and some of you who had come to India had probably met this young boy who was living with us at home, and he was helping at home, and we were also educating him. Now he was taken from a poor family from the village and brought in, and we gave him education, and he had the same education as Tushar had. He was the same, we treated him the same as we treated Tushar, my son. And that boy, we found that he became so ashamed of his parents that when his father came to visit him, he would not look at his father. And when his school friends were there and his father came there, he would say, "Oh, he is a servant in our house. My parents are Sunanda and me, who are his parents. And his real father, biological father, was his servant." So he was so ashamed of his own father and his own mother that he denied them. And although we spoke to him and told him that this is not right, you shouldn't do this, we are helping you so that we hope that you will then lift your whole family out of the poverty and make them equal. But unfortunately, that boy didn't quite listen to all the education we gave him. I got him a good job, he was earning good money, but he just went down the drain. He became an alcoholic and destroyed his life completely and died very young. And that is when I realized that taking a child like this and giving him or her all the benefit and leaving the rest of the family aside is not a very good idea. And so now what we are doing is we are trying to get the whole family and try to uplift the whole family, and we are going to have programs as soon as we have the campus and the buildings ready. We're going to have whole programs of vocational training where we can train even the adults, the parents, in some kind of vocation that they can use to earn a livelihood. And the same with the children. Any child that shows promise, that shows the ability to go in higher education, that child will be given the incentive and the help to go in for higher education. But we also have to remember that these children come from poverty to such an extent that for maybe 10, 15 generations, nobody has ever been to school. They've just lived in poverty for 15 generations. So they don't have that same capacity as our children would have to go to school and immediately flourish and get good education. So not all of them will have that ability. So it's no use giving them education in schools, the conventional education, which is not really going to help them in their life, or alienate them because they will not be able to do what the family does, but they will have to go to the city and find a city job. Because all the education in India today is city-based education. It just trains people not to work in their villages or in their farms, but to go out into the city and become clerks or something in industry. And that is why we find today in India there is this constant migration from people living in the small towns and villages coming to live in the cities, and cities like Bombay and Calcutta and Delhi and all these big cities are choking to death. There are so many poor people living in slums in these areas that all those cities are dying. They can't cope with the pressure of the population. So these are some things that we all need to remember. That we are fortunate, we live in a nice country, we are blessed with having money, good family, and all the things that we enjoy in life. But that we have built, and not necessarily you and me, but over the years, humanity has built a society where some people are left by the roadside. They can't cope with life, and they have to live in poverty and destitution. And I think it's our responsibility as human beings that we try to help those who are less fortunate than us and try to improve their lives and become better human beings. And it can be done, one person at a time. It doesn't have to be a major project or something, but little things can go a long way in helping people. Now, little things like all of you, totally today, Sunanda and I were able to rescue and give homes to 128 children. And all of you are today in a very happy situation, whether you're here or in India, they are all in very happy situation with a very good life and something to look forward to. But if all of you can remember that for every one child that is saved, there are probably 10,000 children who are not saved. That India today, according to the last census, has 128 million children living in poverty. And nobody is ever going to help them. So do we do something if we are really civilized human beings? Do we do something to help these children, help not just in India but in Africa and in many other places? We find all of these children in very bad living conditions. Conditions that we cannot even dream of. I mean, some of you have been back to India and you have seen the slums and the poverty there, which is very shocking. And we can't forget them. It's important that we remember them because it's important to know that peace in the world can only be achieved when everybody in the world has a decent life. We cannot ensure peace in any part of the world if there are people in other parts of the world who are perishing. You know, we are constantly told by our governments that we will have armies and we will have protection, we will protect our countries wherever we live, and we will ensure that nobody affects us or nobody does any harm to us. But no country can live on its own. This whole world is interconnected. We are all interconnected as human beings and as nations. And the security and stability of any country depends on the security and stability of the whole world. So if we really want peace, we have to ensure that the whole world lives in peace.